Welcome to a new Team CGC 9.8 video. So today's our pricing video for CGC 9.8 comics, where I just have a look on eBay at some of the completed listings for 9.8s and check out some of the pricing. Because yeah, one of the best things you can do, I think, if you're actively collecting 9.8s like I am, is just to have more knowledge on what the prices for all those key issues are going for. And you know, you kind of, once you know the prices, there's way less of a chance you're ever going to overpay, because certainly there's always someone on eBay, a seller on eBay, trying to get like 50% or 75% sort of over fair market value for a CGC 9.8 comic book. So really important to know the fair market value prices. So I got a full list of key issues here in the CGC 9.8, a lot of things to talk about, kind of seeing some of the prices here. And they're all US dollars. The prices we will talk about, all US dollars. And all CGC 9.8s, all the books we'll talk about, I'll have a full list in the description below with the prices. So first book is a Spawn #1 Newsstand. So yeah, we had done a Spawn video, and I've recommended kind of in the past many times to purchase a Spawn #1 Newsstand. If you're a big Spawn fan in the CGC 9.8, it's a great collector item. So one went in an auction. So yeah, kind of a good idea of the fair value right now. It went for $517 in the CGC 9.8 for a Spawn #1 Newsstand, CGC 9.8 white pages. Yeah, certainly over 500 now in an auction is pretty expensive. You know, let's call it 6 to 12 months ago. In an auction, these would go for sort of like $350, $375 in the CGC 9.8, so $517. Some whispers by Todd McFarlane, I think they're of maybe teasing a bit of a Spawn movie. He seems to do that almost every year though, so I'm not sure if that's going to hold up, but Spawn #1 Newsstand is a sweet one if you're a Spawn fan, and hopefully under 500 to just get a sweet deal, but yeah, looking like might have to pay over 500 to grab one in the newsstand. So with that, from that same seller, a Spawn #2 Newsstand also sold in an auction for $305. And this is the first appearance of Violator, a really like nostalgic cover too that a lot of people remember. I think Spawn #1, kind of the first even 10 issues of Spawn are really nostalgic, I think, for a lot of people. But Spawn #2 Newsstand with that first appearance of Violator is a sort of key that I recommend, and I've almost kind of pulled the trigger on a few throughout the years in the newsstand too. I would recommend both Spawn #1 and Spawn #2 in the newsstand only if you're coming at it from like an investment perspective. But Spawn #2 Newsstand for $305, I think is kind of a bang on fair price. You know, maybe you get it for a little less if you're super lucky, but that if you're a big Spawn fan, that's one to maybe aim for as well. Yeah. All right, next one here is a cool one that you don't see sell too much. Batman #608 second print though. So yeah, the really cool kind of Batman Jim Lee pinup second print cover that was low printed too. So this is really wanted by Jim Lee fans. This is the first kind of issue of the Hush Jim Lee Batman run. So saw one sell for $519.99. Now, yeah, that is seeming like a pretty expensive price. I think I'm sort of used to these sort of going for closer to 400. Maybe, you know, a screaming deal, you know, 6 to 12 months ago would have been like 350-ish. But 520, maybe just a sign of how the hot CGC 9.8 market is right now, how hot it is, but maybe a bit of an overpay. Try to get that one under 500, but a pretty cool one if you're a big Batman fan. And these Batman books, yes, I think with the Batman trailer, as I've sort of expected, all these Batman fans coming out of the woodwork now. And I think this is just an example of a Batman book kind of heating up with people getting excited for the Batman. Next book is pretty cool. It's Something is Killing the Children #1. Seen a few of these in the CGC 9.8 cell. This is kind of Boom Studios, I think it is, so kind of an indie comic that's really catching people's eye right now. I'm pretty sure it's going to be a show, or maybe it's confirmed already. I don't know. I don't really have, not right on top of the announcements, I guess, but two selling in the CGC 9.8, one for $275 and another one for $312.85, and the $312.85 was the most recent, and I think this one is kind of heating up. So yeah, maybe that $275 was a couple weeks ago. That would have been a pretty good deal then, but I think now they're probably going over 300 with more people kind of, you know, really enjoying, I think, the read on this one, and then with all those rumors that it might be a show. heating up to over 300 in the CGC 9.8. Not one that I'm really interested in, but if you read it and you really like it and you're into indie comics, you know, that could be one to go after. Next one's a really cool one, actually. Interesting. Yeah, it's a Star Wars Episode 1 Phantom Menace #3. Yeah, with the sort of up-close Darth Maul kind of face. And they had mentioned on the title that there was only 17 on the census, I think it was, and maybe they had watched my video where I kind of recommended this one as a really cool cold comic to possibly grab. But this cover, where it's the close-up Darth Maul face, I think seems to be a little bit more rarer. It's really rare in the 9.8 to begin with, but it ended up going for $400. It said on the eBay completed listings, yeah, this morning. I think I mentioned on the video that maybe you can get this one for under $100, but maybe just underestimating how many Darth Maul fans are out there. And I think this is the preferred cover, I think, as opposed to the one where he's kind of in the desert and Darth Maul has his lightsaber out. So someone paying $400 for this one kind of caught me off guard. I don't really recommend to pay that. I think if you really wanted this and it came up in the 9.8, I think the top of the line would be like $225. But as I said, I think if you're super patient, you could probably get the other cover maybe around 100, maybe even under. But yeah, maybe there's more Darth Maul fans than I sort of initially suspected. And in the 9.8, they're quite hunted. So this could be, a pretty decent 9.8 to go after, it being so rare, but hopefully closer to 200 than 400 just seems like a little bit too much for a book like this. But yeah, first full appearance of Darth Maul in Phantom Menace #3. Went for $400 in the CGC 9.8. So I saw Savage She-Hulk #1 sell. Yeah, quite a few of these actually. I think it was from the same seller, and there was 3 or 4 that had sold for $487.50. And $487.50 is a pretty decent price, I think, in this environment. And this is one, though, that I've said in the past for, I think this is a 1980s book. It's a pretty old book. And it's not very rare in the CGC 9.8 for how old it is. There's a lot of them on the census. I always see a lot popping up in sort of auctions and things like that. So unless you really, really like She-Hulk, then you'd want to grab this one because it is the first appearance of She-Hulk. But if not, it's not really one I would recommend from like an investment perspective kind of thing. $487.50 is kind of fair right now. I think before they announced that there was going to be a She-Hulk Disney Plus show, which was like 8 months ago now, it was last year sometime, even longer. This was sort of like $375 was kind of like where you'd see them sell quite often, kind of $375 to $400. It exploded up to like $550 to $600 off that announcement. Now $487.50. If you want it, yeah, decent price maybe right now, $475-ish. But not really one I would recommend, to be honest. Next one's a pretty cool one. Amazing Fantasy 15 from 2006 though, this one. Yeah, obviously be nice to have an Amazing Fantasy 15 and 9.8 an original. This one from 2006 though, you get the first appearance of it's Amadeus Cho, I think it is. Amadeus Cho. I didn't write it down, but I actually did a Google search for him, and he's like he's like Totally Awesome Hulk. He's the new Hulk in Totally Awesome Hulk. So yeah, he sort of becomes I think he's like Iron Spider too. Like he becomes quite a few characters along the way in modern Marvel comics. So this is the first appearance of him with the Amazing Fantasy 15 sort of new school cover and homage from 2006 in the CGC 9.8. This one sold in an auction for $1,009. Yeah. So considering how much this went for, I was kind of curious, and I looked on the census, and yeah, it's a 31% 9.8 ratio, and there's like 100 and something of them, I forget exactly, but kind of focused in on that 31% 9.8 ratio, because for a modern book, a book that came out past the year 2000, only 31% of them are CGC 9.8, so that's pretty rare for a modern book. That's kind of neck and neck with like Teen Titans 12 and Ultimate Fallout 4, which are other really expensive, kind of pretty rare modern books in the CGC 9.8. So just over $1,000 for that one in the 9.8 kind of seems expensive, but it's a new hero. It's a hero that kind of has some potential maybe to be in pop culture. So, hopefully you get it under $1,000 though. Personally, I don't think I would pay up for that, but I can understand it with the 31% of all graded copies being 9.8. That's pretty low and pretty rare for a modern book. Next one, Uncanny X-Men 266. Oh no, 266, sorry. We'll get to 221, First Mr. Sinister, in a moment. 266, first full appearance of Gambit. Really cool Andy Kubert cover. This one sold in an auction for $485. And kind of cool to see this one in an auction, because this one was kind of on the hot list like a month ago, let's call it. People just speculating that Gambit's really going to be in the MCU. I think there was a couple rumors that popped up during that time. And like a lot of these were going over $500 in the CGC 9.8, and that seemed a little bit too expensive for me, given that a year ago these were kind of in auctions going for like 320 bucks. Like, you know, when nobody was really thinking about X-Men being the MCU too much yet. So 485, I think they're kind of pulling back under 500, which is, you know, what I sort of expected. You know, yeah, the books on the hot list always get really expensive, and then kind of coming back maybe $50 to $100. Uncanny X-Men 266 in the 9.8. So yeah, if you want it, I think kind of 450, 475 would be like a really good price target in this environment if you wanted the first full Gambit in the CGC 9.8. Next one's a cool one that is an affordable one. It's Infinity Gauntlet #1 in the CGC 9.8. Saw one in an old case sell for $152.50 in an auction. And this is one I think occasionally, there's quite a few of them out there, and occasionally like people will pay up for this one over $200. And you know, it's just an early 90s one where I think more are being graded all the time, and I would more aim for this kind of price, $152.50, closer to $150 for Infinity Gauntlet #1. This is a direct edition. They're a little bit more in the Newsstand edition, but I would sort of, yeah, more aim for closer to $150 than $200. Sometimes kind of hear people paying about $200 or over for this one, and you know, not worth that much, I don't think. Closer to $150, because there does seem to be a lot of these popping up in auction in the CGC 9.8 if you're kind of on top of your searches and you're patient. But Infinity Gauntlet #1 for around $150 is a sweet one, and it went for $152.50. Next one's Ultimate Fallout #4. Yeah, the first print, first appearance of Miles Morales. Saw two of them kind of go pretty recently. Kind of interesting on the prices a bit. One went for, the most recent one I saw was $1,000, $99.99 it was. But saw like 2 or 3 in the last few weeks here go for $895. So, you know, I think a lot of them were going for like 1,100, and during peak kind of Miles fever, they were like 1,300, 1,400, I think a couple of them went for. So now seeing one for $895, it's starting to just lull a little bit. And yeah, if you want this book, you know, $895 they're lulling to now, you know, maybe you get it closer to $800 here in the next 6 months. Because eventually the Into the Spider-Verse 2 rumors, I think they're going to heat up again, but might be worth kind of keep staying on the lookout for this one. And if it gets sort of like 750, 800 level, I think it's probably worth a buy in that. Yeah, first Miles Morales, new Spider-Man. In the first print, it's pretty rare in the 9.8 too, you know, kind of a 32% CGC 9.8 ratio. It's like 31 or 32, I kind of forget, but pretty rare in the 9.8. Ultimate Fallout 4, yeah, one to kind of, a modern to kind of grab. And now that it's lulling, I can sort of begin to kind of recommend it. Hopefully closer to 800, one sold for $895. Ultimate Fallout 4, second print, is getting a little juicier here, I think. I saw one sell for $300. So this one had sort of went to 400, and a few had kind of went over during kind of peak Miles fever, I would say. 300 now, maybe 2 or 3 I saw sell like sort of 300 to 310. So Ultimate Fallout 4 second print, kind of getting in a bit of a buy zone maybe as well. I think, you know, 250 to 275 I think would be a pretty great price on this one. I would almost recommend kind of pulling the trigger around 250, 275 for Ultimate Fallout 4 second print, where you kind of see his face but it looks like the first print. Yeah, I really like that one. Next one here is a Hulk #1 from 2008. This is the first Red Hulk. This one's the variant, the McGuinness variant, Ed McGuinness variant, who does a great kind of modern Hulk, to be honest. Yeah, I like Ed McGuinness's art a lot. So the variant edition of Hulk #1 in the CGC 9.8, going for $419. That's a pretty solid price. Like Blue Label, I think the Red Hulk first prints, Hulk #1 in the 9.8 kind of go for sort of 200 to 250 area. So over 400 for the variant. You might be able to get a better price on this, but you know, if you just really like this book and you think Red Hulk's a really great first appearance to have, this probably is just a decent price to pay for. $419 for the McGinnis variant of Hulk #1. Yeah, first Red Hulk is a bit underappreciated, I think. Like, it's kind of one that could sort of fit on a cold list, and you can get it for a decent price right now. All right, next book here. Speaking of, I think, a very investment grade book that you can kind of get for a decent price that could be on a cold list, given how sort of iconic the first appearance is. It's a Daredevil 168, the first appearance of Elektra. Yeah, cool. Pretty sure Frank Miller's doing the art on this. Yeah, during the Frank Miller run. So in an auction, I saw this one sell for $1,520.66. In a new case, CGC 9.8, looking pretty good. That's looking all right. I mean, you know, for how old this book is with the big first appearance in a CGC 9.8. I'd be interested in the 9.8 ratio on that, which I didn't look up for this video to kind of see the rarity of it in the 9.8, but that's a big first appearance, and Elektra, I think, probably has some potential. Certainly, I don't think has been in like very many movies yet, so that could be one to maybe consider, certainly if you're a big kind of Daredevil Frank Miller fan. $1,520.66, a serious one, but first Elektra in that one, in the CGC 9.8 white pages. Next one's Uncanny X-Men 221. Yeah, so we'll get into first Mr. Sinister here. I saw one in an auction sell, a direct version too. Like, I got the Newsstand one here, but a direct version in an auction sold for $295. Yeah, first appearance of Mr. Sinister, and there's a lot of rumors, and I think there was pretty much a confirmation that he's gonna be the next villain in the new MCU X-Men movies that are kind of projected to come out soon. So this one's heated up quite a bit, but you know, yeah, in an auction going for just around 300, a little bit under. If it's one you want, yeah, I think you know, 275 to 300 is kind of what you want to pay, kind of a fair value now. This book has come a long way though, from it really cooling down about a year ago to near like 160 in the CGC 9.8. Now 295 in auctions, pretty much because of those rumors. But it's a cool book, and certainly wantable if you're an X-Men fan. Yeah. All right, next one is Saga the Swamp Thing #20. Yeah, this book is when the Alan Moore run begins on Saga the Swamp Thing, and he did an epic run on that's, you know, super collected, and this is the first issue of his run. Saga the Swamp Thing #20 in an auction I saw go for CGC 9.8, $142.50. That's one if you're sort of into Alan Moore and Swamp Thing. That's a key to want, and I think that's a good price to aim for. $142.50 for Saga the Swamp Thing 20 in the CGC 9.8. Next one here is, I think, a really good deal, and I probably would have purchased this if the shipping was more reasonable coming to Canada. But Justice League #50 in the CGC 9.8, when the three Jokers are first revealed with a really cool cover. Saw one sell for $119. Yeah, this is kind of the price I was looking to pay for this one, but this was one where the shipping to Canada was basically like 60 bucks. So didn't want to go through with it, but this is when the three Jokers are first revealed. So now that the three Joker books are starting to be pre-saled, $120 I think is going to look like a really good price. I bet in a month from now these are like $180-ish, and I'm pretty sure more people are going to really be trying to get this one graded. I could see this one being about $180 in like a month or two, with kind of the three Jokers hitting hard. Great cover on this one. Yeah, it's just wantable from the cover perspective. I sort of wanted it, you know, before really getting pumped about the three Jokers or anything, just because of the cover. Jason Fabic on the cover. Yeah, cover art. Justice League #50, yeah, one to aim for at that $119 price if you can swing that before this three Jokers kind of gets any more hype. Next one, Batman '89. Yeah, great cover on this one. The first kind of cameo punchline where they don't show her face. Saw two of these go for $175.70, and another one $179.99. Yeah, so yeah, these punchline books were kind of heating up to around 200. I'm pretty sure one of these went in auction for like 202. And that was like a week or two ago when some of her, you know, more cover appearances were coming out, and that punchline kind of won off, I think it was. So maybe even already a little bit lulling already, about 25 bucks to, you know, 175. Yeah, this is one I still think you probably want to be patient on, 89 and Hell Arisen 3, because there just still seems to be a lot of new Punchline books coming out. In 6 months to a year, I think you get these closer to kind of 130 to 140, under 150, let's call it, if you want to save a little bit more. But yeah, cool covers, and yeah, I'm sort of coming around to wanting these a little bit more. Yeah, Batman 89 though, seeing that sell for $175.70 and $179.99. Wolverine Limited series. I saw one of these in the CGC 9.8. It was a brand new case with, like, I think the new X kind of behind the 9.8, so it had the new decals on the 9.8 case. Selling for $550. Yeah, in the CGC 9.8. I bought mine about a year ago now for $276. We kind of mentioned this one, following this one all the way up. So one going for $550, like that's kind of getting even tempting for me to maybe even attempt to sell mine. Yeah, this is a classic book, but I'm not too crazy about the cover, to be honest. It is a classic cover, Frank Miller cover, memorable cover, but just not, for me, it's not like the best cover ever. So one going for $550 kind of makes me almost want to throw mine up on eBay for $550, being that I paid $276 for it a year ago. These have really heated up sort of off the back of the Frank Miller signings and just Wolverine in general, like people looking for other Wolverine books kind of besides Hulk 181, I think. Next one here is Darth Vader #3, first appearance of Dr. Aphra. Yeah, in the first print, CGC 9.8. Saw one sell for $235. Yep, so this is kind of hot and staying hot, this book, but you know, maybe not as hot as it possibly could be if there were some kind of confirmations of Dr. Aphra being in a movie or something like that. So $235, yeah, I think, you know, anywhere from like $200 to $235 I think is fair in this environment. Yeah, this is one that used to be kind of $150 to $175 too. Heating up a little bit with people kind of, you know, foreseeing maybe a Dr. Aphra being on the big screen or something with coming out with Star Wars. Yeah, it's a pretty expensive book for it's not very rare in the CGC 9.8, but it is actually, I think, worth speculating. The variant for this book is if you're really serious about Dr. Aphra, is certainly one to go after. But they're pretty hot books, both of them, so it's hard to kind of recommend to get out there right now and grab this one, but if you do, hopefully closer to $200, yeah, for Darth Vader 3, CGC 9.8. Next one's pretty cool. It's a Devil Dinosaur #1 in the CGC 9.8. Saw one sell in an auction for $221.49. And yeah, this is just a really cool cover, I think, and I don't think there's ever going to be like a movie or anything like that, but it's just a really cool old CGC 9.8 that you can still grab for a really good price. It's a good value, I think. And Moon Boy's pretty, like, it's first Devil Dinosaur and first Moon Boy, who's like the first human. So it's just a cool story, I think, too. For $221.49, pretty great for an older CGC 9.8 to possibly consider. Next one's pretty cool, an Amazing Spider-Man 325, and this one was in the Newsstand version, so that kind of Red Skull, Todd McFarlane Spidey cover. In the Newsstand version, going in an auction for $325 in the CGC 9.8. Yeah, that's pretty expensive for kind of like a non-key. This one in a direct, like non-Newsstand version would pretty much go for like $110, $120. You know, maybe if a bit of a bidding war started, maybe up to $150 with the direct. But yeah, the Newsstands in the late 80s are a little more rare for sure. And this sort of being in that Todd McFarlane run, a lot of people just end up hunting these books. $325 though seems a little bit expensive. I would kind of maybe recommend closer to $250 for an Amazing Spider-Man. $325 Newsstand, but you know, cool, kind of a cool one if you're a big Red Skull Todd McFarlane fan. Next one saw a sell in auction as well, which was nice. A Watchmen #1, CGC 9.8. Yeah, this, if you're a Watchmen fan, this is kind of the one to get for sure. Cool, kind of nostalgic cover for sure for a lot of people. $510 one in the 9.8 went for, which is a pretty decent price, but I've seen them go certainly for under 500, sorry, before. Even maybe under 450 as well, like maybe like 435 area. Sort of a book that kind of waves where, you know, okay, maybe something coming out, Watchmen, or some rumors, and then it'll pick up to over 500 and then kind of dies down, and then some sell for like 440, 430. and then another rumor comes around, or like a show or whatever. So yeah, kind of in that range, I think, for Watchmen #1. Hopefully kind of get it under 500 though, I would think, in the CGC 9.8. Be patient on that one. Okay, and the last book on the list here, yes, and I will have the full list in the description below with the prices. Last one is a Teen Titans 12. Yeah, this is a book I've really liked over the last year, and I've, you know, recommended it. First full appearance of the Batman Who Laughs. A really cool story, and I love the Batman Who Laughs. Yeah, just a great concept and great modern villain. Pretty rare in the 9.8 too, with a pretty low 9.8 ratio. It's like 31% or 32% of all graded copies are CGC 9.8. So it kind of sticks out in modern books, because most of those ratios end up being like 70-80% of all graded copies for these modern books. This one kind of sticks out though with that low ratio. Prices though, seeing kind of two sell here in the last little bit. One for $799.99, so $800, let's call it, and another one for $850. So yeah, this is one I obviously I really like, and just kind of mentioned I like, but I'm not sure if you want to pay $800 for this comic book. I think this is one to just be a little patient on, wait until like Dark Knight's Death Metal sort of runs its course. You know, I do feel like there will be some type of lull in Batman Who Laughs popularity over the next year, let's call it. And yeah, my sort of aim on this would probably be under 700. So, you know, 650 I think sounds like, if you sort of waited patiently and some started selling for around 650, I think you can probably get in there and grab it. Because yeah, it's certainly a modern 9.8 to focus on with that low ratio. It's probably, yeah, it is basically the modern villain comic book to buy. And when I say modern, I'm like after the year 2000 here. This one's really modern though, like 2017. This, you know, this is a really modern book, and somehow still pretty rare in the 9.8. Like, it's pretty hard to find them in the really high grade. So it's definitely one going after. You know, I think if you be patient, you get it under 700 over the next 6 months, you'll get a better feeling. Whereas jumping in here at 800 to 850 seems like a bit of an overpay. Yeah, so yeah, one I really love, but tough to kind of recommend with it heating up so much, and a lot of books are kind of like that too. Batman Beyond #1 kind of comes to mind, which is kind of in that same situation right now. All right, thank you very much for watching today. Yeah, I love kind of getting on top of the market and getting some prices and familiarizing with the prices. If you haven't already, I would invite you to join the team and subscribe to Team CGC 9.8. Yeah, would love to have you on our comic book collecting and comic book investing team. Hit the bell for all the latest notifications. Add me on Instagram and Twitter as well. Yeah, good to get through a full list of prices here though. And as I say, if whatever issue you're buying, if it's not on this list, just do your completed listing searches on eBay. Get a couple, you know, 4 or 5 completed listings of that book in the CGC 9.8, then you're going to get a really good idea of what the fair market value for your book is. Use Go Collect too. You can do that and use these videos, but once you do that, you're almost never going to overpay, and that's kind of what these videos are all about. All right, thanks so much for watching. Really appreciate all the conversations I'm having. Yeah, add me on Instagram if you want to ask me any questions. Thanks again, and I'll see you on the next one.